All right, hey, fellow ProtectRs, welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. Greg LeBuff here with you tonight. Coach Dustin, Coach Brad are away, and it's depends when people are going to actually listen to this. Not everyone's going to listen to it as I go live here, but we are December 28th today, so just past Christmas, just ahead of New Year's. And so I wanted to jump on and I want to share with you, I titled this podcast, The Simple Top Secret Formula That Men Need to Know to Be a Complete and Total Badass in 2024. So I'm going to share, it's actually two simple little formulas that every man needs to know. It's a perfect timing as we head into the new year. A lot of guys, New Year's resolutions, 2023 is fucking over, but 2024 is on the way. And I want every single man to weaponize and become the badass protector for themselves, their family, and other innocent people. So I'm going to break down two simple formulas real quick, real simple, back in 30 seconds. Hang with me. Hey everybody, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Greg LeBuff, and I'm sharing insights for how I went from the victim of a brutal attempted murder to weaponizing my mind and body, mastering the tool of violence so that I can protect myself and my family from violent criminal assault, and how for the past 30 years, I've been helping good people just like you do the same. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. All right, everybody, I'm back. Okay, like I said, Coach Dustin, Coach Brad are away. We're just before Christmas here, but I didn't want to miss out on the opportunity to share what I think it's a really simple formula, but I'm going to break it into two parts. But I didn't want to miss this opportunity. Why? Because, again, you come to the end of a calendar year. Now, I'm not one that necessarily prescribes. I don't do a lot of New Year's resolutions and stuff like that, simply because I set goals throughout the year. I'm constantly, I set my goals, I benchmark, I have crucible moments, I track my goals, I track my routines. So I'm constantly throughout the course of the year, I'm course correcting. Are my goals motivational for me? Am I hitting them? Am I achieving them? Am I on target? Am I not? But at the end of the day, it's hard to pass up on, or it's hard not to acknowledge that we are coming to, a significant moment, which is the end of one year and the beginning of a new year. So I thought what I would do is this: I would help. There's lots of good men that have contacted me in 2023 that had all of the best of intentions, right? They wanted to start training. They recognized the need. They recognized that they had a gap level in their experience and knowledge. And so they reached out and said, hey, listen, I want to learn to protect myself. I want to be there and be my family's protector. So they had the best of intentions, but that year is gone. 2023 is over, and they did not do that. And so a new year is upon us, right? 2024, and this is the perfect time for anybody that is interested in learning to become their family's protector, right? That recognizes what the fuck is going on in our world today. The justice system's fucked. Mental health care, our mental health system is fucked. We're battling drug addiction at levels we've never seen before. I mean, things are crazy. So let's just jump into this. Let me share the formula. Like I said, I'm going to break it into two parts for people to make this simple. Formula number one. Formula number one is specificity minus filler equals quality. So I'm just going to, real quick, I'm going to break this down for you. So specificity. So I have a question, and I ask this of almost every single person that I ever talk to that is interested in our training. What do you want? What are your fucking goals? Right? I say this all the time on this podcast. I say that context determines content. So what's the context? What are your fucking goals? What are you looking for? You got to get specific. This is step number one, right? You got to actually get specific, right? So for us, it's men that want to learn how to protect themselves. That's it, period. Right? That's a complete fucking sentence. You don't need to go on. I want to learn to protect myself. Right? I want to fucking protect my family. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and that means that I cannot just be the provider, I need to be the protector. Okay, so that's the first part. So what do you want? If that is your goal, then you get very specific about that, because it's different. If you say, well, what I'd love to get a black belt. I'd love the recognition that comes with being a black belt. Hey, you know what I'd like to do is I'd like to enter some tournaments. I'd love to get the recognition that comes with winning and dominating these tournaments and get a trophy, a belt, a title, whatever it is. No goal is better or worse than any other goal, but what the fuck do you want? So be specific, right? So that's number one. You have to be specific. For our intensive purposes, you want to be able to fucking protect against violent criminal assault, period. That's the goal, okay? So that's specificity. Now, the next thing is subtract all of the filler, right? So what is filler? Well, filler is all the fucking bullshit that has nothing to do with helping you achieve your goal. So the goal specifically is to be a weaponized fucking protector, be able to protect myself and my family from violent criminal assault. Okay, So what is the filler? Well, anything that doesn't move towards that. This is, so for example, like you don't need a lot of the formalities, right? What the fuck does a uniform and wearing uniforms, and what the fuck does having a nice, air-conditioned studio and having nice matted floors and having all these pictures of all these typically, well, quote unquote, great men that have passed away, and I got to bow to these people and do all this stuff. I mean, the list goes on and on. What I'm getting at is that there is so much formality that is surrounding martial arts or self-defense or whatever it is. There's rituals, there's tradition, there's formalities. None of that shit really matters, because none of that shit's going to help you protect yourself. None of that shit's going to make any fucking difference when it comes to protecting your family. So I consider all of this stuff kind of filler. The other thing is, the logistics of how you train. I'm a big believer in private training. I'm a big believer in being adaptable for people. Not everybody works a 9-to-5 schedule. Some guys are shift work, some guys are out of town work and stuff like that. So the problem is that when you go to some place that's recreational, what I call the 7-Eleven self-defenses, the guys that are running these big recreational commercial studios, right? A lot of that stuff is the way that they do business is just filler, right? They're not adaptable. It becomes set. And listen, I get that there's reasons why they do that and stuff, but the point is specificity first. What the fuck do you actually want? The people that come to us, their goals are very clear. Their goal is they want to learn how to fucking protect themselves, period. Right? From violent predatory criminals. That's it. That's what they want to be able to do. So specificity minus fucking filler means let's get rid of all the other bullshit. Just simplify the fucking process. Right? Let's get rid of all the tradition, get rid of all the wasted bullshit and the routines and all the white noise, the secondary distractions and all this type of shit. Right? And let's just get down to business and fucking train. It is amazing. You would be amazed over 30 years how many men I met that can't train on a concrete floor. That can't train and say, well, listen, you planned a 7-8 hour training day for us. When's the lunch break? There is no fucking lunch break. The fuck do you need a lunch break for? We're here to do something. Let's fucking punch in and go to work, and we'll fucking work till we're done. And when we're done, then go fucking eat. Right? Like, I mean, it's just like, get rid of all this bullshit that you don't need. Okay? So that's specificity minus all the fucking filler. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a certain quality now. Okay? Now, if you're specific and know what you want, and there's no filler in that, you have no choice but to end up with a high quality of training. Right? Like, that's all that's left is quality, because you've taken out all the filler and you're not doing something that isn't in accordance with what your ultimate goal is. Okay, so hopefully everybody understands how we end up with quality, because that's going to be important for the second formula. Okay, so I'll say one more thing about filler. I kind of divide into 3 different areas. There's a hobby, there's an interest, and then there's conviction. So if you have somebody that is looking for a hobby, they're not very specific. If they're not very specific, they're prone to taking on and accepting a ton of filler. If you have somebody that has an interest is a little more serious than a hobby. Oh, that guy has a real interest in that. If you have a real interest in something, you get a little more specific, don't you? And thereby, you're not willing to accept as much filler, because your interest is something that is much more specific. Okay? But then you get to conviction. People that have a level of conviction, they have a problem. And when you have a problem, you get very fucking specific about the solution that you're looking for. And when you are very specifically looking for the solution to a very specific problem, you can recognize filler a fucking mile away. Right? It's like your bullshit meter. When you've been conned a few times, when you got a little street grit, you got a little experience and savvy, you can smell bullshit a mile away. Well, when you have a high level of conviction because you have a very specific problem, you can smell filler a mile away. And so when you take those things out, again, you're left with the quality. Okay, so that's formula kind of number 1. We got to have this quality. Now, we're going to move to formula number 2. Formula number 2, you got to take the quality. You know what you want, you're very fucking specific, and you don't have the filler. You're not going to tolerate the filler and the bullshit, the secondary noise. Now what's left is a quality thing. So now you're going to take quality plus consistency multiplied by time, and that is going to equal one badass motherfucker. Okay, so let me break this down. So the first is the quality. We kind of talked about that. What do you want? Be fucking specific of what you want, and do not tolerate filler. Okay, so we have the quality. But now here's the thing, consistency. Most people think that when it comes to weaponizing, when it comes to learning to protect yourself and your family, that information is the problem. You say, I don't have the information. Now, people might say also, they might go, well, I don't have, not only do I not have the information, but I don't have the experience. But information is never the problem. Okay? So when I talk about consistency, what I need you to understand is that implementation is always the problem. Okay? The information is easy. Now, just because, I'll just fill in the blanks here. Information is everywhere. Every piece of information that you need to answer or solve any problem that you might have in your life on any level is out there. That information is out there. It is in a book. Somebody knows it. Someone's teaching it. It is, you can find it on the internet. It's just information is fucking everywhere. Now, the thing is that do you want to invest the time and energy and effort to seeking out and gathering that information, right? So all of the information you would ever need to learn to weaponize, to become a ProtectR, to protect yourself and your family, all of that information is out there. But it takes a tremendous amount of time, effort, and money to go out there and find that information. So what makes the process easier is I'm going to find somebody who has already done what it is I want to do. Right? After I got violently assaulted, man, I was training in martial arts, but what I realized was that martial arts and combative sports was the wrong information, right? Be careful what you practice. You just might get good at the wrong thing. It was the wrong information. Violence is its own language. But then I got very fortunate and I found an individual who actually had all of the correct information. This person had every bit of information I was ever going to need that pertained to violence and violent assaults. So I found this person, he had gathered all of this information. So that makes it much easier. But information wasn't the problem. That's the smallest amount of effort to just find the right information or find that person. The second thing, like I said, is implementation. So you have to then say, okay, I've got the right information, but this shit actually has to implement into your life. And this is one of the biggest stumbling blocks. So the quality plus the consistency. But how do you actually get consistency in your training, in your knowledge, in your physical, mental, emotional skill sets? How you get to consistency is by having somebody who understands how to actually implement this stuff into your life. Not just implement it into your life. It's got to be functional for you. Okay, so I'm gonna give you kind of a little bit of a secret here. The consistency, the best, most successful formula I've ever seen is one that is predicated off compound interest. Meaning, I have, over the years, seen a ton of people that get into training and go hardcore. Meaning that their consistency is like, it's not consistency, it's obsession. Right? They are training 7 days a week. 3-6 hours a day, like a session in the morning, session in the afternoon, session at night. They just become obsessed. And I want you to think of like a grandfather clock, right? The giant big pendulum. The pendulum swings to one side of that clock to the extreme, meaning that they eat, sleep, breathe, and shit training, right? They're like, I gotta weaponize, I gotta be a protector. I want to learn these skill sets. I want to learn this knowledge. I want to become this person. And so they go hardcore on that. Now, if they have the quality, meaning they're very specific with what they wanted, minus all the filler and all the bullshit, they are now engaged, passionately engaged, intensively engaged in very high quality training. Well, you think, hey, this is perfect, right? That's the secret formula. But what I'm going to tell you is that in the short term, it's great. Okay, in the short term, it's fucking great. These people start getting good very fucking quickly because they're just dedicating so much fucking time to it, and they have the right formula number one. Specificity minus filler equals the quality. But guess what happens? And I think most people can predict this. That is much easier to achieve when you are young. Before you're married, before you're working in a serious career, before you have kids, and all of the other commitments and shit that comes with, right? I started this when I was 20, 21 years old. And so I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. Alls I did was work to raise enough money to train. And then I had no other hobbies. I had no other interests. I had the level of conviction. I had a problem, right? I'd almost been murdered. I didn't know how to fucking defend myself, even though I've been training for a decade. And so I wanted to weaponize. I wanted to master the tool of violence. And so every waking moment went into either generating funds to pay for more training or training. That was it. And so if you look at the formula of like the quality, I was very specific on what I wanted. I found a group and organization of people that hated filler as much as I did. So I was getting this super concentrated, distilled, no fucking filler bullshit, specific, type of training that I was looking for. I was getting that. And I was very consistent, and I was putting in massive amounts of time, which is quality plus consistency multiplied by time. So I was training 7 days a week. Now here's the thing with this. There was a few other guys that were doing the same thing I was doing. But here's what started to happen. When the pendulum goes one side to the extreme, inevitably it is going to swing back. And it doesn't come back to center or neutral or homeostasis. It often overcorrects and it shoots the opposite way. And so what happens is life moves on people. And so when I was training this, my instructor, my mentors, they actually sat me down. Now think about this. I am training with them, as much as humanly possible, which is putting money into their pocket, obviously, because I'm working to raise money. That money, all of it is going directly to them for training. I'm there 7 days a week, which, people love people of conviction. They want people to be around. They want people taking advantage of the training. So these guys were happy as shit. But one day, right, they came to me and said, you need to find balance. And they shared this formula with me. You're getting the quality training because you're very specific on what you want. You have a complete and utter disdain for filler, right? You're not here looking for belts and certificates and uniforms and seeking praise and all this other bullshit that so many people are. You don't give a fuck about. You're not out here to meet new people and get in shape and lose some extra pounds and, just get out of the house a couple nights a week. You're not into any of that bullshit. So you have the quality. You are consistently showing up here 7 days a week. You're here like, fuck, I was moving down there. I was living there, staying there a month at a time, and until eventually I moved down there. So the consistency was there. But they said, what'll happen, all of that is always getting multiplied over time. And when you are too far one way, when the consistency is almost too high, what'll happen is that means that the rest of your life is being neglected. And that means it is becoming unbalanced. Now, like I said, at 21 years old, you could potentially go a decade ignoring the other sides of your life, being out of balance. Just think about, man, when you were 21 years old, you go out and drink, party, stay up all fucking night, go home, sleep a couple hours, wake up and go back out and do it again. You can burn the candle at both ends. Balance is not in the nature of the young, right? But what they knew is listen, here's what's going to happen, because this is inevitable for the majority of people. Life's going to move on you. You're going to meet a girl someday. You're going to want it. That relationship's going to get serious. You're going to get engaged. You're going to get married. You're going to have kids. You're going to need a fucking career because you're going to want to buy a house. You're going to, whatever it is. All of the fucking big things all the bullshit that we as adults know, it all is going to happen. And so month after month and year after year, I saw these guys that were doing what I was doing. And then I would be down there for 1 or 2 months, and there'd be these guys, and they're trained. I'm living there. They're there right there with me 7 days a week. They're there in this morning session, the afternoon session, and the evening session. Right? They're there at 2 a.m. when we're hanging out, still talking bullshit, and then training breaks out again. This was the lifestyle. And these guys were there. Then I'd go home, and I'd be, okay, I'm gone for 30 days, 40 days, I'll be back. I'd come back, and I'm like, where the fuck is so-and-so? Where's this guy? Where's this guy? Where's this guy? Gone. We haven't seen him. What the fuck happened? Oh, so-and-so got a job. Oh, so-and-so got a girlfriend. Oh, so-and-so's getting married. So-and-so got his girl pregnant. Whatever it is. Life happens. And the pendulum comes swinging back the other way. And so training stops. Completely stops. So they might have had a year, 2 years, 3 years. I knew a couple guys that even had 5, 6 years of this training in, which is great. They got great. They got really, really good. And then it stopped. And so here's the thing, right? The formula number 2 is quality plus consistency multiplied by time is going to equal one badass motherfucker. So now we're going to look at time. Time is going to pass whether you are training or not training. I kind of said in the beginning that 2023 is fucking done. And I got a list of names of people right from January on that said, dude, I'm interested. This is a problem. I want to be a better man. I want to protect my family. I want to learn this shit. And yet that entire year has passed. 2023 is gone and they have not done shit yet. 2024 is coming and 2024 will pass. And so on and so forth. Time will always move on. Now, these guys that you go, yeah, but these guys that you knew that got, let's take the best of the best, that got 6-7 years of like intense training. Yes, they got good. But you know when they did that? When they were 20. Actually, a lot of the guys started when they were 17, 18-year-old young men. And that means they ended at 25, 26, 27. Somewhere in that range is when they dropped out. But you see, time doesn't stop. So they stopped training when they were 25, but you look today, they're 45 or 55. So now they've spent more time not training than they spent triple the amount of time not training than they ever did training. And guess what? When life takes over and work gets busy and family gets busy and you got kids and got obligations, not only did they stop training, but they probably stopped going to the fucking gym and they stopped taking care of themselves. They stopped all of it. And then life pulls you the other way because there's lots of people right now that have kids that are going, holy fuck, man. You know how hard it is to balance when you got kids? I got 2 kids. I know guys that got 8 kids, 7 kids. Do you know the time demands on you when you got fucking 2 kids, never mind 7 kids, plus a full-time fucking career, plus the wife, plus friends, plus elderly parents or whatever there is so much shit always ripping at our time. And time is the greatest gift we have because you never know how much of it you're going to get. So here's the secret formula, right? Formula number 1 I shared with you was specificity minus filler equals quality. What the fuck do you want? Get specific. You want to learn how to weaponize to protect your family against violent criminal assault? Be specific. Get rid of the fucking filler. Beware of anybody that pitches belts and certificates and uniforms and all this other shit. I'm not saying there's not some reason for them, but they're fucking filler. No belt, no certificate, nothing like that has ever saved somebody from a violent criminal assault. Ever. Okay? It is a symbol that people like to work towards, but it has nothing to do, it offers no fucking guarantee. It's like a trophy that we get to hold up and say, look what I did for the rest of the world. Who gives a fuck? You don't need that shit. So specificity minus all the filler and bullshit equals equality. Then you take the quality. Say, if I'm going to train, the training's got to be fucking high quality. It's got to be fucking concentrated. Right? You take a 5-gallon bucket of water, drop a half a drop out of an eyedropper, of something into that bucket, and it's got to instantaneously turn all 5 gallons into whatever it is you dropped into that. It's got to be super, super concentrated. That's quality. Now, quality plus consistency, and that's the thing. People get excited and people jump into something that pushes the pendulum out of fucking balance. So if you look at your life and you say, listen, you're 20 years old, 21 years old, and you got all this fucking time and you got no other commitments and all this shit, great. Go hardcore. But guess what? Be careful. You can do it for a while, but at some point you have to anticipate and bring that back into balance before life moves on you. Before you need to, you have to balance it before life forces you to balance it because it'll overcompensate and swing back the other way. But if you, like most of the men I work with, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you are working a fucking career out there every day to working your ass off to provide for your family. You've got young kids, even teenage kids. You've got a spouse, you've got friends, you've got obligations, you've got all this shit. Your time is already being fucking taxed. Well, here's the good news. Use the power and understand the power of compounded interest. Meaning, if I take $20 a week and I put it into a bank account and I put $20 in every single week and I do that for a year, that's not really that big a thing. But if I do that for 5 years, 15 years, 30 years, you have something extremely significant. You start having this compounding interest effect. So here's what I said about consistency. Information's not the problem. Implementation's the problem. So what I do for people is when I have adults, fucking grown-ass men that are fucking legitimate providers for their family, what I do for them is I help them set up an implementation, we call it a battle tempo, a training model that they can be consistent with. Meaning, we do our privates, one private a week. Every single week, one private a week. They pick their day, they pick their time. That becomes your week. Now that hour is concentrated, dedicated training time. They come in and I take all of the 30 years of my experience and my knowledge and my entire fucking team and having worked with military law, everybody, I take all of that, and in that 60 minutes, that 1 hour, I put 100% of my intent, my focus, concentration, knowledge, skills, understanding, and I squarely put them in the crosshairs of that, and I pour everything into that for that hour. People say, well, fucking hour is not very much. When you're specific about what the fuck you're doing and you have no filler and you know how to punch in and get to work, an hour is a ton of time. So we have that hour. Now, when they leave with the battle plan. They leave with an understanding of saying, listen, between now and the next week, you're going to schedule out, find time, schedule in, and you're going to do 2 30-minute protocols, 30-minute training routines that I give you, that I show you, that I show you how to do this. Meaning, somewhere in between your week, you have to find a 30-minute block and then another 30-minute block. Get up 30 minutes earlier, go to bed 30 minutes later, stop watching fucking Netflix as much, whatever the fuck it is, find that 30 minutes, and now you're going to insert 30 minutes of high quality, focused, no filler, no fucking around training. Right? So now they have that. They have now the 1 hour plus the 2 30-minute blocks is 2 hours. Then what I do is I have them find net time, meaning no extra time. What does that mean? If you got to drive to work, right? How long's your drive to work? My drive to work takes me 40 minutes, 20 minutes if the roads are great, 40 minutes if the roads are bad, whatever the fuck it is. Okay, let's just keep the math simple. You got a 30-minute commute to work. That 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back, that's an hour. Okay? Someone might say, well, I work from home. I don't have to commute. Perfect. Okay. How long do you give yourself for lunch? Like, figure out all of the times in the day you go, well, I'm going to vacuum the house. I'm going to do the dishes, unload and load the dishwasher. Okay. When you're doing that, slap on a fucking podcast. All of our training, all of our knowledge, all of our skill sets, everything is in audio programs, video programs. There's mandatory reading of books that we want. Go through Barry's No More Mr. Nice Guy. Educate yourself on the legalities of it. Listen to the audiobooks of On Killing, On Combat, Warrior Mindset, where you're learning the physiology of combat and self-regulation and all these different things. Like, there is so much information, but what I'm getting at is that you have this net time, meaning no extra time. You're already doing something anyway, so replace what you're doing in those moments, not all the time, but in certain specific moments, like your commute, like when you're doing the dishes or vacuuming or running to the grocery store or shopping, and put something on that you can saturate that has survivable value, right? That builds and adds to your warrior skill set. Now, all of a sudden, you might gain an extra, let's be modest with this. You might gain an extra 3 to 4 hours a week just doing something, half an hour a day, 7 days a week, 40 minutes, whatever it is. And now all of a sudden, you're sitting at 4 or 5, maybe even 6 or 7 hours a week of dedicated training time. But it's not costing you the same way it was, right? Because you're using the net time, the no extra time. You're slotting in 2 little 30-minute protocols, and you've got your 1 hour of really concentrated, dedicated training every single week. Now, here's the thing. Could you do more than that? Of course you could do fucking more than that. You could do a shit ton fucking more than that. But should you? Well, that's the question. The formula that I have seen work the best over 30 years is obviously the quality plus the consistency. Now, the consistency that I've seen work best is balanced consistency. Well, that's what makes it consistent, is it's balanced. The guys that go extreme are almost never still around, and the max they usually last is 2.5 to 3 years. especially when they come to me at 30 years old, late 20s, early 30s, they'll get guys go, hey, when I get into something, I go all in. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. And for the first year, the first 8 months, 12 months, they're at everything. They're here all the time. And then about 14 to 16 months, they've dropped 30%. Oh, life's just busy right now, but it's going to calm down again. I'm like, why is it? And I try to warn them. And the next thing you know, about 18 to 24 months, going on to that, 30 month, 36 months, they drop down to where you see them 20% of the time. And then the second that when somebody starts and they go all in and they're there 100% of the time, like every day, 7 days a week, and then you go out 2 years down the road to where they're making even 50%, half of what they used to make. Most people go, oh, hey, half's still pretty good. Do you know what happens? They have guilt. Because, well, I used to be there all the time. Now I'm only there half as much. And they go, well, it's not even worth going. If I can't go all the time, then why even bother? And they fucking quit. So do you know what it feels like when someone that's there goes 100% of the time to training 7 days a week? They never miss a fucking thing. They're all in. That's all they think about. They just go hardcore. And then all of a sudden, they're down to training 1 day a week with 2 30-minute protocols and then filling in the blanks with some net time. They feel like it's not worth it and they fucking quit. Now listen, life is going to ebb and flow. You're going to have a few days, a week, or even a few months at a time where you can throttle your training up. But you're also going to have some days, some weeks, and months, and some years where you got to throttle down. What I'm getting at is that if we use that grandfather clock analogy, when the pendulum gets to the extreme right or the extreme left, it's not good because you're out of balance. So if you throttle training up and the pendulum moves, maybe not all the way over, but moves to one side, but then you throttle it back before life forces it back, you can bring it back into balance. But if you just have the pendulum, obviously if you have it shut off, and it's so far to one side where you're not training at all anymore, you're not doing your privates, you're not doing your protocols, you're not saturated in your net time, you're in a lot of danger because that'll become your habituated patterns. But the same token is if you're filling every waking moment with training and everything else, what'll happen is other areas of your life are being neglected. And if you don't balance that and life does it for you, it'll swing to the other side. I've just seen it so much and people are gone. So the secret formula that men need in 2024 is be specific. Make sure you're not filling shit with filler. You'll have a quality. Take the quality, add that to a consistency of set a realistic training tempo that fits and is actually implementable in your life. And set it. And then you can throttle it up a bit or you can throttle it back a bit at times. Go with the ebb and flow, but you are in control of that consistency and then multiply that over time. So the men that started with me in 2023, that started and said, okay, well, it's only once a week. Can I come more? No. Well, what do you mean no? No, you can't come more. 1 day a week. Okay, but what else can I do in the off weeks? Here's the protocols. I'll design it for you. I'll set it up for you. I'll monitor you through it. You can send video. I'll make sure you know what you're doing. So you're going to get those 2 other protocols in on your own. And then I'm going to help you build in all of your net time. And I get them going. So the guys that started that in January and got through the first 6 weeks, 8 weeks, this became the routine. They did not miss their fucking 1 day a week. Most of them would sit there and go, dude, this 1 day, this Monday at 6, this Saturday at 8, I look forward to this every single week. And guess what? They would never let anybody fuck with their time. Why? Because they valued it. They said, no, I only get to go. Mondays at 6 o'clock is my fucking time. Don't book the kids into fucking skating lessons and fucking swimming lessons and all this other shit unless they got another way to get there. Because I, as the dad, I'm going to pay myself first. I am out there. I don't fucking miss work because the kids got to go to swimming lessons. I work because we need to fucking be able to provide for this family. Non-negotiable. And I need to be able to, as the man of this family, I need to be able to fucking protect what I am providing. So one day for that hour is my fucking time. And it becomes sacred to them. And so they fucking protect that. And then they can move their protocols around, but they get those protocols in, they get their time in. Once that's become habituated in them, a couple months, that's it. They start going, yes, these are my fucking times. Then they say, hey, Greg, I know you said only 1 day a week, but I got a couple weeks off of work slowed down, the kids, all their sporting shit ended. You know, we got a week or two off. Can I next week come in for 2 or 3 privates next week? Yeah. Oh, I can? Yeah. Let's fucking throttle it up a little bit. Because now I know that we have set a base level foundation. And so we can throttle it up, and then after a week or 2 weeks or even a month, we can throttle it right back down. But we're doing it consciously. So now we've got the quality, plus we've set a consistency, but we have a base foundation that they will not fucking compromise. They will fucking protect it. You don't do your shoulds, you do your fucking musts. And that becomes a must. Once a week is a must for me. Right? That's what they start getting into. And then you multiply that over time, because the guy that started in January of 2023, I can think of a bunch of these guys. It is rapidly approaching January 2024, and they've got a year under their belt. But I also can compare that to the list of guys who contacted me in last December and January and didn't fucking start because they're waiting for the perfect amount of time. And I can think, unfortunately, of a couple guys who, when they started it, went full throttle despite my recommendations, and life did what life does, hit them on the fucking blind side, and they're not here. They're not here. And so if you fast forward and go 1 year, it's good. 2, 5, 7, 10, 15 years, or 30 years. And you just start looking back over it. There was lots of times when I first started this, I was young, less commitments. I was on full throttle. Luckily, my instructors convinced me, because I didn't believe them, but they convinced me to throttle back and balance my life before life moved on me. Not everybody that was doing what I was doing survived. As a matter of fact, most of them did not. And now we fast forward, they're my age and they haven't trained in 30 years. And the difference is undeniable. I'm not special. I'm not uniquely talented. I'm not uniquely skilled. I wasn't born with better attributes or, any of that other shit. The thing that I have that separates me over most people is that I have a quality that came from the specificity, the minus the filler, and then I times that over the consistency multiplied by 30 fucking years. And the best part is that formula gave me something else. Here's a bonus that I'm going to throw in for absolutely free tonight. What happens is when you train consistently the right way, understanding balance, at 52 years old, my body's not shot. I have not had to have knee replacements, hip replacements. I haven't suffered massive fucking injuries and fractured bones, and I don't have bad wrists and necks and all this other shit, because I have been consistently training like a fucking fanatic, not in the sense of like intensity. 7 days a week, no rest, no recovery. I have been consistently training for 30 fucking years, and that compounded interest is the same as if I'd been putting $20 a week into the bank for the last 30 fucking years. You are going to put yourself financially on a level that most people can't comprehend, simply because you have the power of this secret formula that nobody wants to follow. It's not in our nature, especially men. When they get into something, they want to go full throttle, or they feel like it's not worth doing. Now, let's just, a real quick caveat, look at professional fighters. There are men out there that can go full throttle, They make it their passion, they make it their hobby, they go full throttle, and they've been doing it for 20, 30 years. But a lot of professional fighters don't have, the body doesn't last, folks. What you're doing in your 20s, you're typically not doing in your 50s. And most people do not have the luxury of training professionally, meaning where they get paid to train. They can go train, go home, have a nap, eat the best foods, have access to all the top medical, technology and nutrition for recovery and rest, and they don't have sponsors and all this type of stuff. So listen, if ultimately you had the quality of training and you had the consistency of 7 days a week, so like prolonged, extended exposure, high levels of intensity, tons of consistency into that over X amount of years, that's definitely going to be a better formula. But very few people are ever going to make that work. So again, the people that come to me, they're not pro fighters. They don't want to be fighters. We don't train fighters. The people that come to me are really good men. They're providers. They're men that value their right to life and that value the freedom for a man to protect that life. And so they have every intention, right? When I was a young man, I had every intention of meeting a woman, getting married, starting a family, having kids, raising those kids. And I have every intention to walk my daughters down the aisle. I have every intention to fucking bounce my grandchildren on my knee, take them to the fucking park, watch them grow up, watch them succeed, watch them get fucking married, watch them, you know what I mean? Like, I have every intention of being here as long as I fucking can on this fucking planet. And while I'm doing that, I have every intention. There's no retirement for me. Fuck retirement. I don't want to retire. I love what I do. I've lived a life of passion. I will train and work to the day I fucking die, hopefully. And I have every intention of maintaining as much of my skill sets and maintain that role of being a protector. That's the life I want. And so what I'm going to do and what I've been doing for the last 30 years is using this formula and being consistent times multiplied by time. Right? So this is the formula. So what's the saying? The best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time is today, right fucking now. And when you start something, get rid of the illusion that I'm only going once a week. I'm only doing this once a week. I'm only doing, I'm only getting in 6 hours. I'm busy right now. I'm going to wait till I have the time to go really hardcore in this, Hey, listen, I'm not saying you can't start when you're 65 or 70 because, again, the second best time is whatever right now. But if you can only go once a week, if that's all you did, 1 hour a week, and you started when you were 40, and now you're 70, you've got 30 years of consistent training in. I know what you'd be like. Can you imagine what you'd be like? Can you imagine the knowledge, the skills that you would have, the experience that you would have? 1 hour a week, every single fucking week. For 30 years. Think of something else you've done in your life every single day, right? For the last 30, 40, 50 years of your life. Right now, short of, and most people can't even say brushing their teeth, unfortunately, but, you get the power of compound interest, play the fucking long game. That's the secret formula. All right, listen. This is it. This was the last podcast. This is the last season 2 podcast for 2023. This will be it. So our next podcast will be back. It'll be the beginning of season 3. We've got some new things we're going to do in season 3, some new guests, some new insights. But one thing that will not change is, again, context determines content. The law of specificity is us sharing with you the process for how a good man weaponizes so he can protect himself and family from violent criminal assault. That is the mission. That will always be the mission. We will never change that mission. So I want to thank everybody for joining me over the last 2 seasons, or whenever you have joined me in this journey. If you found us here, I really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to season 3, 2024. I hope you are as well. And that's where we'll wrap it for today. So, all right, everybody, that's it. Thank you so much. Listen, stay safe, stay weaponized. We're going to chat again soon in the new year. Take care, everybody.